The arena air was thick with anticipation and the smell of cheap ale. From the stands, Quinton, a man whose face was a roadmap of bad decisions, bellowed his expert analysis. "The undefeated legend goes for the first strike," he roared, certain of the outcome. "The boy has no chance of evading from that distance." Beside him, the warrior Annerose watched with a thoughtful frown, her chin resting in her hand. Goldoh Kinmeki, the so-called ever-victorious Golden Dragon, charged down the ramp, his blade aimed true at the pathetic-looking Jimina Senen. Annerose's eyes widened, a glint of suspicion cutting through the crowd's certainty. "Or does he?" she murmured, leaning forward. There was a sudden, sharp flash of light. Instead of a clean kill, there was the screech of steel on steel. Jimina, the boy with a supposed battle power of 3, had somehow, impossibly, blocked the legend's charge. Goldoh's face was a mask of disbelief. "What?" he stammered, his perfect, undefeated world cracking at the seams. He'd overextended. He was wide open. Goldoh braced himself for the inevitable, brutal counterattack he so richly deserved. He told himself the strike would come at any moment, a swift end to his humiliation. But the strike never came. Instead, Jimina just stood there, his face an unreadable shadow, wobbling his sword with the grace of a newborn foal. He held the blade horizontally, shaking it slowly as if testing its weight for the first time. This wasn't the posture of a master swordsman. It was the posture of an idiot. Goldoh could only stare, his brain refusing to process the sheer, insulting incompetence on display. A vein throbbed in his temple. The initial shock curdled into pure, unadulterated rage. "Are you making fun of me?" he growled, his voice a low threat. In the stands, Quinton was utterly baffled, demanding to know what just happened. Annerose, however, had seen it all. She explained that Goldoh had aimed for the throat with perfect timing, but at the last possible second, "He cracked his neck," Annerose stated, her voice flat with a strange mix of awe and disbelief. Just as the blade was about to connect, Jimina had simply tilted his head. She demonstrated the move, a casual, nonchalant tilt of her own head. Quinton's one good eye nearly popped out of his skull. What? So he had a stiff neck and just so happened to move it at the perfect moment to dodge? Annerose confirmed that was exactly what she saw, admitting it all happened at an incredible speed. Quinton refused to believe it, insisting there had to be more to it than a cosmically perfect accident. Down in the arena, Goldoh was losing his composure. He seethed, questioning why Jimina was so calm after missing a once-in-a-lifetime chance to win. Jimina, for his part, looked profoundly bored. A smirk crept across Goldoh's face as a new, more palatable theory formed in his mind. He figured the boy was simply too stupid to even realize the opportunity he'd had. That settled it. Goldoh crouched, magical energy crackling around him. He declared that for the shame Jimina had caused him, he would unleash his full power, warning the boy not to blame him if he dropped dead. With a theatrical roar, he summoned a massive, glowing dragon of pure mana above him. "God-slaying golden dragon flush strike!" he bellowed, the sound rumbling through the stadium. He screamed at the silent Jimina to lament his mistakes and cry for mercy, his rage escalating with every passing moment of his opponent's infuriating silence. Quinton and Annerose gasped in the stands, shocked that Goldoh could materialize his mana to such a degree. Goldoh cackled, his face a portrait of maniacal glee, ready to reveal the true source of his power. "Before you die, I'll allow you to learn just how high my battle power is." It's over 4,300! Just as he finished his boast, a tiny sound escaped his opponent. Achoo! A storm of energy erupted, but not from the dragon. Lightning, seemingly from nowhere, filled the arena, as Goldoh's magnificent attack was met with the most anticlimactic counter in history. The great golden dragon fizzled out, and Goldoh himself was sent tumbling, landing headfirst on the stone floor with a pathetic thud. The spectators were frozen in stunned silence. Hyoro, who had bet his entire fortune on Goldoh, looked as if his soul had just been forcibly evicted from his body. The announcer, after a moment of stunned hesitation, declared the unbelievable result. The victor is Jimina Senen! Jimina stood over the unconscious Goldoh, his sword resting casually on his shoulder. The crowd erupted in a confused uproar. Quinton, clutching his head, demanded to know what in the world had just happened. Annerose, looking deeply troubled, offered her observation. He sneezed. Quinton could only repeat the word, his mind refusing to accept the sheer stupidity of it all. She elaborated that the bright light of the attack likely made Jimina sneeze, and in doing so, he swung his sword with the momentum, accidentally striking the one perfect point to neutralize Goldoh's ultimate technique. Quinton protested that it was too idiotic to be true, that Goldoh's attack was powerful enough to win the entire tournament. Annerose had to agree that Goldoh was stronger than she'd thought. If he were serious, he could be a truly great spell sword. But as she and Quinton stood on the steps, she began to wonder. Maybe Goldoh wasn't the only one. Jimina might also be much stronger than anyone imagined. Perhaps, she mused, Jimina didn't see Goldoh's opening as a once-in-a-lifetime chance because he never needed one. What if he was so overwhelmingly powerful that he could win any time he pleased? Quinton gritted his teeth, letting out a frustrated groan. He dismissed her theories as overthinking. He announced that he was slated to fight Jimina in the final qualifying round. With a clenched fist and a face like thunder, he vowed to be the one to expose the boy's true colors. Annerose, however, was lost in thought, sweat beading on her brow as she considered Jimina's impossible movements. She tried to mimic his neck crack again. A series of loud cracks echoed, followed by her own startled yelp as she pulled a muscle, much to the confusion of the people sitting nearby. Mortified, she covered her face and let out a silent internal scream of utter embarrassment. The next day, the Colosseum buzzed with gossip about the undefeated legend's fluke defeat. Everyone was betting heavily on Quinton to put an end to the nameless swordsman's lucky streak. It was not to be. The announcer's voice rang out once more, thick with disbelief. Quinton is down after a single strike. The victor is Jimina Senen. The crowd roared in fury, with one particularly distraught gambler screaming that Jimina had bankrupted him. Jimina, standing over Quinton's crumpled form, merely looked up at the stands, vaguely wondering why the angry man with the eye patch seemed to have it in for him. Later, in a quiet corridor, Annerose intercepted him. She conceded that she had underestimated him, that she never thought he'd make it to the finals. It was never in question, Jimina replied, his tone flat and utterly confident. Annerose accepted that she had misjudged him. She then announced that she would be his first opponent in the finals next week, and offered him a warning. Pointing a finger at him, her expression deadly serious, she declared, "I've seen through all of your moves. Don't think the tactics you've been using so far will work against me." Jimina's bored expression remained unchanged. Then a slow, knowing smirk spread across his face. Annerose was taken aback. Internally, Cid was ecstatic. This was it, the classic trope. He began walking past her, planning to ignore her to add to the drama, silently begging her to stop him. She took the bait perfectly. "What's so funny?" she demanded. Cid turned, a fist clenched in triumph, internally thanking her for playing her part so well. He flexed his gloved hand with a soft clack. "How about I give you a warning of my own?" With a dramatic flourish, he unstrapped several ridiculously heavy weights from his limbs, letting them crash to the floor. Annerose stared, her eyes wide with horror, her hand flying to her mouth. "Wait! Don't tell me, all this time you've been fighting with limiters?" Jimina's smirk widened into a predatory grin. "The shackles that had bound me have been undone. The time for games is over." A shiver of pure terror ran down Annerose's spine. As he turned to walk away, she called out to him, desperate. Trying to regain some semblance of control, she struck a pose, cracking her own neck with a confident smile. "Just so you know, I can do this too." Jimina glanced back, his expression utterly deadpan. He walked away, leaving a bewildered Annerose standing with her hands on her hips. What a weirdo, he thought to himself. Back at the dorm, Hyoro burst in, waving a wanted poster for Rose Oriana. He excitedly told Cid about the 10 million zeni reward, urging him to join the hunt. Cid, comfortably reading a book, declined, saying it sounded like a pain. He casually reminded Hyoro about the fortune he was supposed to have won from his zero chance to lose bet. The reminder sent Hyoro into a shivering, finger-biting spiral of traumatic debt. Cid sighed, telling him to stop making that face. Just then, the dorm matron peeked in, calling for Cid. She informed him that his sister Claire was waiting for him at the front gate. Cid's internal pain-in-the-ass-o-meter spiked. Claire was here. The meter shot into the red zone. Suddenly filled with a burning passion for bounty hunting, Cid grabbed a startled Hyoro by the shoulders. "Hyoro, I'm 100% with you!" He declared they were taking a shortcut through the window, and the two boys promptly leaped from the second story, Hyoro screaming about their unbreakable friendship. Down at the gate, Claire waited, her hands on her hips, wondering what was taking her brother so long. A small, determined smile touched her lips. She didn't mind. She would wait for him. The sun shone brightly on a lavish hotel. Cid, having successfully ditched both his sister and Hyoro, strolled through the lobby. He mused that escaping Claire was only a temporary solution, and he had no real intention of looking for Rose. He'd just kill some time here. A faint melody drifted through the air, catching his attention. He recognized it instantly. Someone was playing Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. In this world. A sudden realization dawned on him, and he stopped in his tracks. He knew exactly where this was going. Seated at a grand piano, playing with serene grace, was a beautiful woman with long, twin-tail hair. Cid approached. "Epsilon," he said. She looked up, surprised. "Master?" He noted she was in her full slime bodysuit and makeup disguise, as usual. They sat for tea and pastries. Epsilon, one of his 7 shadows, asked how long he'd been listening, feigning embarrassment over her practice. Cid confirmed the piece was Moonlight Sonata, and she beamed, saying it was her favorite of the pieces he'd taught her. Cid internally preened. The piano was, after all, the most fitting instrument for an eminence in shadow. He recalled his past life, how his parents had forced him to learn piano when he'd rather have been training. Over time, however, he'd come to appreciate it. It gave him the perfect excuse to avoid hanging out with other kids. More importantly, he realized the piano was the ultimate tool for showing off. He could add artistic flair and ambiance to his dramatic appearances. And the image of an eminence in shadow playing the piano under the moonlight? He thought that was just incredibly cool, so he'd practiced obsessively. He told Epsilon her playing sounded nice, and she humbly thanked him, reporting that her fame as a pianist was helping her build contacts for Shadow Garden. She proudly mentioned that her renditions of the Minute Waltz and Turkish March were highly acclaimed. Cid mused that Epsilon had effectively become the Beethoven, Chopin, and Mozart of this world. She mentioned she was leaving for a concert in Oriana, a kingdom known for its love of the arts. With a sly smile, she added that she believed she could do a lot of work there. That reminded Cid. He asked if she knew the whereabouts of Princess Rose. Epsilon admitted she didn't know much, as Beta was handling that matter. However, she offered a helpful tidbit, suggesting Rose might be hiding in the sewers. Cid stood up abruptly. That was more than enough information. As he left, he tossed a casual compliment over his shoulder, telling Epsilon she looked as stunning as ever. She lit up, squealing with delight. She pressed her hands to her blushing cheeks, overjoyed and already planning how she would rub this glorious praise in Beta's face. Deep in the capital's sewers, Rose Oriana walked alone. She leaned against the cold brick wall, exhausted. For the moment, she was safe. But she was racked with doubt, unsure if stabbing her fiancé, Doam, had been the right thing to do. She recalled Beta's intelligence, that Doam was connected to the cult and was secretly controlling her father, the king. She hadn't been strong enough to convince her father. Now she was a fugitive. She clutched a crumpled piece of paper, a memento from Cid. Tears welled in her eyes as she wondered what he thought of her now. Was he worried? Did he still believe in her? Could he possibly be searching for her? A sharp pain lanced through her chest, and she winced, clutching herself. She pulled open her uniform collar, revealing a dark, vein-like mark spreading across her skin. Her eyes widened in terror. The sign of the possessed. It was spreading. She felt stupid, wondering how they could possibly have a happily ever after now. Pressing the crumpled paper to her lips, she whispered an apology to the boy she left behind. "I'm so sorry, Cid." Suddenly, a sound echoed from above. Faint musical notes drifting down into the filth and darkness. She looked up, confused. Someone was playing the piano. And the song, it was hauntingly, impossibly familiar. "Moonlight Sonata?" she whispered, staring up towards the source of the beautiful, lonely music.